picture. Yeah, that was.
I put 1936.
That's about right.
Really?
Yeah,
Good for
because
you,
Good
Judy.
guess.
36, I was 15. 15, I was a pretty big kid for 15, I
I'll
thought.
say, yeah.
So what's
Darwin, what's the
You're on
address here
candid
anyway?
camera.
We're at 62nd South and almost Holiday Boulevard at the residence of Darwin and LeNore Knudsen, our favorite uncle.
2715 East?
It's called Millstream Estates now or
No, it's
something.
Millstream Farm.
Oh, Millstream Farm.
Millstream Farm.
Now tell why that name? Where did that come from?
Well, we haven't really given it a name. We've always just called it the farm, you know, and all that. But it's on the mill stream. That's the important
Aha.
thing. And it is a farm now. It's not the mills. It's not
So
the
there
mill.
used to be a mill here, you're
Used to be
telling
a
me.
flour mill, 1882, 1878 to 1912.
Wow, Grandpa Graham was 5 years old when they built this. He was born in 1873.
He was?
Yeah. So this was Rasmus Knudsen that started this thing.
Rasmus Christian,
And they came over on the ship. Judy was just telling us.
monarch of the sea.
In about 1860s.
April 28, 1864.
Wow, you got that date down. Now they must have had some money to actually
Well,
start up a mill. I mean, you don't just start a mill unless you've
It's
got some
interesting.
money.
We've had some genealogy. A lady that we know over in Mill Creek tracked down Rasmus in genealogy, and he's listed as a farmer, that is, as a landowner,
Right.
which is quite distinctive compared to most of them, because being a landowner meant he was a proprietor of land.
Now you're saying in Denmark they were
In Denmark,
landowners.
yes,
Oh, okay.
Smidstrup.
Now when they came here, they didn't they homestead?
No, they
50 acres?
They immediately went to work for Brigham Young. The first winter, Brigham sent him to Heber City to build the Jeff Mork mill, flour mill, and he lived all winter in a little hut with a leaky roof, and lived on boiled wheat.
Oh, gee.
Terrible winter, first winter.
So then they saved
And
and
then I don't know where he lived at that time, but later on he bought 5 acres up on 2nd South and 7th East, and but in the meantime, Brigham had him up building all the sawmills up Big Cottonwood Canyon. Brigham Young and another businessman downtown in Armstrong that lived right across the street from us and just died at 97, they were in partners with the sawmills. And Rasmus earned all the lumber for the mill he built here by building the sawmills. Mill B flat, Mill D flat, all sawmills in Big Cottonwood Canyon.
then they just where did they get the stones? They chipped those out of granite?
Well, the huge purling stones, like the one out here in the wall, that came from Farmington Canyon. And Rasmus brought it in with 6 yoke of oxen on a special stone carrying device, heavy wagon. And then he took them to his farm, to his 5 acres up on 2nd South and 7th East, where he had a huge, he had a big adobe house, but then he had a machine shop, a tall, rather large machine shop, where he cut out these huge quartzite stones from Farmington Canyon.
And made them into what do they call them? Grist stones or
Grist
something?
mills.
Millstones, and so they ended up 64 inches in diameter and 10 inches wide, thick, or 12, yeah, about 10 inches thick.
Now, were they in this business in Denmark, or did he just look it
No,
up on the internet or
he was
something, how to build a
He
mill?
was an apprentice in Augsburg
Oh, I see.
for years, and he became a master joiner, which is just like an architect practically, and a master millwright. He helped develop the the windmills, the Dutch windmill. In fact, he contributed to the largest mill with a 90-foot span, and he probably invented the variable prop.
Variable pitch propeller
Variable pitch
like
propeller,
airplanes
yeah.
have these days. Amazing.
And so when he came over, you see, he was so qualified. He had so much experience building mills and carpentry that no wonder the mill looks like a masterpiece of carpentry now still. Facade and everything.
Now Rasmus, he was Joe Knudsen's grandfather.
Grandfather,
I see.
yes.
Now when Rasmus died, did his son take over the mill, or?
Oh yes, 19. Well, I guess Rudolph took it over before 1904. Rasmus died in 1904, and I think Rudolph had been running it for some time. Interestingly enough, we should have been Rasmussens. See, Rudolph was Rasmus's son. Therefore, he should have been Rudolph Rasmus. Rasmus'
Yeah,
son.
that is a good point.
Yeah.
But at that particular moment, they changed the naming of the surnames, and they fell back to Knudsen.
Really?
Yeah,
Now Knudsen comes from where?
Knudsen. Well, that's just an old Danish name, a great Danish name.
Well, I don't know. I don't understand
But
that.
they-
Rasmus. What
Rasmus Christian Knudsen,
I see.
and so actually,
Oh, you're saying, I see what you're saying. That before that, we should have been named after his first name,
oh yes,
Rasmussen.
yeah.
Oh, I see.
In fact, I've forgotten just what Rasmus's father's name was, but he must have been a Rasmussen.
Now the mill, well, I guess during the Depression, they went out of business or something, huh? Whatever happened to the mill?
Oh, what happened to the mill was a very dramatic thing. The mill was using most of the water in Big Cottonwood Stream, especially after the runoff in July when there's not much water. So in 1904, the city decided they needed the water.
Tuh, gee.
And being of a religious nature, they quoted the Book of Mormon. Better that one millwright should perish than a whole city die of thirst. And they took our water. I guess they paid them.
The Lord giveth and the county taketh away.
That's right. They probably paid him off in about 1907. The mill still ran till about 1910.
I see. And then later they had a boarding house or something across the street where Bancotts is, didn't they?
Well, no, Rasmus lived across the street in a
Oh,
little blue frame house.
oh,
I
I
was
see.
still standing when I grew up.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that Rasmus lives right across the street. Meantime, in 1918, the family moved to Idaho to take care of Aunt Victoria's farm.
Aunt Virginia talked about that.
Because
when
all of her children had gone to war.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's what happened to the mill. While we were gone, the mill was the plunder of the renters here.
Oh boy.
Oh, you're kidding.
burning up the wood.
Oh boy.
And Uncle Fred undoubtedly sold much of the machinery because all that was left when we came back down in the basement of the barn was a lot of huge pulleys, you know. Pulley tape, pulley,
Mm-hmm.
and pulley, metal pulley, steel pulleys, and only the one millstone. See, there was two millstones naturally.
Mm-hmm.
There's the running stone on top, and the stationary one below.
Do you remember seeing that mill in operation?
No,
Darwin,
this-
you're not old enough.
This was the stationary mill,
Yeah.
stationary stone out here.
I
Now this is not a flower stone out here
Yeah.
in the wall. This is for pearling barley. It takes the shells off of barley
Oh, I see.
and to make pearl barley. The largest one west of the Mississippi.
Let's talk about you for a while here. Now, you were in the Navy in World War II, right?
Yes, 1944
You've never told. I remember the first picture I ever
20
saw of you.
22 months.
You were in there with your Navy cap on,
But I,
dashing-looking man that you
but
are.
I just came back from Florida, my mission in 1944.
And they drafted
in
you.
March.
They drafted you, or you joined?
I was the last one to leave our ward because I was called in November of 41.
Oh boy! So you were
Before
just before Pearl Harbor.
And so when Pearl Harbor hit, wow. So the stake immediately notified me and a couple of the others that we'd still go on our missions. We were the last ones to go.
Oh, I see.
And you
So
went to-
actually, I owe my life to my mission because I could have easily got killed in the war.
You could have been at Pearl Harbor.
Oh, I could have been at Pearl Harbor.
You were in the Pacific Theater, weren't you?
Yeah, well, yes, but see, I didn't get in till 44.
Oh, I
And
see.
and I was on a mission from 42 to 44.
Oh.
And you
So
went to
about
Florida?
what month in
Went to
44
Georgia. Went to Georgia and Florida.
What month in 44 did you join?
Oh, it was not till about September.
I always thought you were on an aircraft carrier.
I was.
But in Florida, not the
No, no,
Pacific.
But no. I was on a mission in Florida.
Oh, okay.
I was on a
be
small
all right.
transport carrier called the Cullinan Bay. I went on board in about September and maybe October after it had come back from the Battle of the Coral Sea,
Right.
in which it had taken 8 huge shells, and had a marvelous experience there because as soon as I got aboard, I met a fellow named that I later stayed up till 2:30 in the morning. That's the first night.
Leonard K.
Converted him.
Teaching in Leonard K. About the Book of Mormon, and about 4 or 5 weeks later, we came to Oakland, and I baptized him.
Is that right?
He just died a few months ago, but his wife is solid in the church, and he became a great guy.
Hmm.
We had a couple of kids go on missions, and they've done a lot of work in the abstracting, you know.
What was his name?
Leonard K.
Oh, he was from Salt Lake City?
No, he's from Stockton, California.
Oh. Now, what job did you perform in the Navy?
Oh, I was really on the beam. I was in radar.
Oh, okay.
On the beam.
You sat there with a
that's a
scope
joke.
and tracked things, or you
I was
repaired
a
them?
seaman first class.
He was in radar.
Wow. Very uneventful.
So after the war, you got out. Whenever you could, you got out, huh?
Yeah.
And then you went to BYU, right? Got a degree in what, psychology, or? Because I remember you gave Dick an IQ test one year, and I said, "Oh, give it to me, give it to me."
I made a mistake of giving my wife one. When I found out she was smarter than I should have given the whole. I should have just stopped right then.
Yeah.
Oh, you graduated in psychology, huh? Huh. I didn't know that.
Did you commute from here clear down to Provo every day, or did you live down there for a while?
I thumbed back and forth every weekend. We had an apartment down there with 7. How many were there of us? Oh, there was 6 or 7 of us in one apartment.
I'll be darned.
Oh, we all had to take turns cooking. Oh, it was outrageous, and we had a lot of fun though. But
You know, I've always regretted that when Rudy was, Harvey was alive, we didn't ever pin him down on his war experiences. Wasn't he
No.
in B-17s?
uh-huh.
And
he was a
Dog gunner?
no,
radar or
no,
navigator?
No. He was an instrument technician.
Oh, but
Instrument technician. I can't imagine him being an instrument technician, but he was.
did he fly on them, or did he repair them over
he
there?
flew on them.
Is that
Oh, he
right?
flew. Oh, he sure did.
So he had his 25 missions over there.
They had some harrowing experience.
I
us
tell you,
the-
I've heard about that. They had one chance in 25 of coming back alive on those
Harrowing.
missions.
Tell us the one about how they saved the airplane.
I don't.
Oh, the hydraulic system?
Yes. They needed some liquid.
Yes.
They needed some liquid desperately.
to get the hydraulics
To
working
get
so they
the,
could get the landing
to
gear
get the
down.
landing gears down. So it just happened they all had to go to the bathroom at the same time. It was so convenient.
And that got him down.
That brought him down.
Did he ever get hit with flak on any of his missions?
Oh, I imagine they did, what he suffered was shell shock, so to speak.
Oh, I can imagine.
He was never quite. He was always quite nervous and, well, not nervous, but apprehensive. And when I was building my barn, he would want to help me, but he didn't want to get up on anything. Or
Yeah.
he wasn't that scary. I don't mean to say, but it was obvious that he was. Didn't you notice it, Lenore? You noticed Harvey's situation.
I'll tell you, he was one of the
After the
heroes.
war.
Those World War II people are the heroes, especially those B-17 people.
Yeah. He must have had a terrible experience because they put him in a sweat box somewhere where they were, and it was punishment for something he'd done,
Really?
So they put him out in this sweat box, out in the sun, just about killed him, I guess.
No
But
kidding.
But he survived.
I didn't know they did that. That must have been.
You mean the army that he was in, or
He
the Air
was-
Force?
He was in the Army.
Army Air
He was
Corps.
in the Air Corps, yeah. He was in the
Yeah.
Air Corps. And I don't know just where he was stationed.
What year was he in? He must have been in during the war.
Well, he must have. I think he got in immediately, so he must have gone in 42.
Uh-huh.
42.
And Rudy, I guess he was too old or too young.
Well, he
Go
got
in.
a deferment because
Oh.
he was married and
Oh, I see.
and so he worked down at Remington Arms.
Oh, I see.
And so Stanford was a very interesting experience. I got a scholarship to the business school, but I got tired of writing up papers on paint, the division of paint, marketing paint. Oh, so one day I went over to the office and transferred into fine arts, rhetoric and public speaking, and
You are a great speaker.
so I got my
Darwin.
master's degree
Did you?
in rhetoric
At where?
Stanford University.
Stanford University?
Oh, I
I
see.
didn't know that
Well,
either.
first I taught after I transferred out of the business school. I went over and soon got a job as a instructor of the business students in public speaking, which was quite an experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so Stanford was quite an interesting situation, and I was supposed to get my PhD, of course, when I came back to
That's
New-
where you met Lenore, obviously.
No. We met her at the Y. We were already married.
Oh, I
Oh.
see.
We both graduated in '48.
I can remember your wedding reception in the living room of the old home that was here, and you
Yeah.
were opening your gifts.
Oh,
You and
my
Lenore
gosh.
sitting on the big couch there. I was just
Yeah.
about this high, I think.
Actually, Lenore and I met way back in 46. In the fall of '46, she had come up from Reno, and I'd already been in there. I'd already been a year in 1941 to BYU. So I find myself in a class with. What class were we in together, Lenore? What class did we have with Dion?
Phonetics.
So, yeah, we're in phonetics. And this gal kept raising her hand, raising her hand, answering the questions. And of course, I was a little outspoken too, so I was raising my hand. And so we were just.
That's a tall tale.
We were in
Competition.
He never noticed
We
me
were
until
in.
we both got
We were in.
100
I didn't notice her, except I noticed this gal. This gal was always.
That's not me, Darwin. I never read
That was you.
Well, you people
old
can
idiot.
pronounce any word in the dictionary
She
then.
answered more. She answered more. She was as participated as much as any student in that
Who are you
class.
going to believe?
So afterwards, one day, probably the first day, we walked out of the building
tall
together.
Tale. Don't you believe a
We
word.
walked out of the building together, and I probably kidded her about being so smart, intelligent, and all that. And
You sly devil, you.
so we would walk out most every morning, it seemed like, and then gradually we got acquainted, and then I found out she played the piano. In the meantime, I was aspiring to be an opera singer. Finally got a contract, actually, with Metropolitan,
Is that
but
right?
it was the insurance company.
I thought you were going to say the cookbook people.
But anyway,
You-
so I found it very convenient for her I needed someone to play for me, you know. I had about 30 or 40 songs from the Broadway musical, but they were all a little bit too high, but I'd strain and strain and strain. And she was upstairs on the third floor where everybody else was going to dances. She was up playing a Hungarian Rhapsody because she was majoring in music. So I'd go up in the afternoons, and after she practiced, and she'd play for me for a half an hour or so. And we were just, then I'd walk her home. I'd walk her home from school about noon. I mean, we were up on the top upper campus.
Right.
There was a fountain up there with a stone circular
I hate this
fountain,
story to go down.
and we'd walk around. We'd talk around this. We were just friends. We were absolutely no romance, absolutely no thought of marriage, absolutely no thought of dating, nothing. Well, I'll tell you why. She wore flat shoes. She had only one. Well, she dressed very poorly, very well. Her folks were very economical, and she had straight hair, and she was a plain-looking girl. I want to tell you, and I had absolutely no interest in girls at all, anyway. But we gradually got a little more acquainted, and after about a year.
No,
See?
I moved in with Marva.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Then she moved in with. Well, first.
That's what happened.
Scared me. I thought you were
Well,
going to say
first-
she
no, wait a
moved in
minute.
with you.
First she in the meantime, Jerry Fox, Geraldine White,
Uh-huh.
had also come up there. Come to BYU that fall, and lo and behold, one day down at the cafeteria, she and LeNore were sitting together. And then I heard Geraldine say, "Darwin, come over here." So I went over, and she introduced me to LeNore. Was that after that was before we had our class with Dion, honey? Must have been. Why would she introduce me as a stranger if you already knew me?
Because that was the first week up there. I met
That's what
Jerry.
I say. That was
And then
before.
Jerry left.
That was before we even
She
got.
left and ran
that
off
was
and
before
got
we even
married.
got into
She
class,
didn't
okay?
finish the semester.
Then we
Didn't
met.
she?
No,
Then we met in the class.
she just decided she liked what's his name, Fox, and she just eloped. She just disappeared off the face of the earth. We didn't know what
She really
happened
did.
to her.
She really did.
She was here for Aunt Dean's funeral with her sons, right?
Uh-huh,
Geraldine. They live in San Diego or someplace, as I
Yeah.
remember.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
I guess they're related.
El Cajon.
Yeah.
They're
They,
El
Cajon.
Cajon down.
what relation are they to us?
Well, Aunt Dean is Joe Knudsen's sister.
Oh,
And
that's.
Aunt Dean is Jerry's mother.
Oh, well, that's, yeah. So we're second cousins,
Right.
I guess.
Second
Yeah,
cousins.
yeah.
Well, Darwin, you talked about LeNore playing the piano and
Well,
you
so-
singing, so we're going to go over to the piano here
Well,
in just a little bit and get a sampling of
well,
this.
let me tell you what happened though.
Yeah, let's finish
After
this
all
story.
this, all of this walking home and around the drinking fountain, you know, and so on. One day, and every once in a while, I'd tell her, "You know, you're kind of a nice kid," and I'd probably said that. I'll bet I'd said that 4 or 5 times at least. And so then one day, as we were partying, I said, "Hey, you're sure a neat kid," and she says, "Yeah, I'm a nice kid, but nothing doing." Well,
Was that the
that
challenge?
straightened me up. That straightened me to a challenge. And so I got to thinking, well, wow. And so it wasn't many days that I invited her to go to a movie. But she was terrified of me. I was a wolf, I was a flirt, and she told her
He
landlady.
was. I
And
told
she-
my landlady I was
she-
going to call him up and tell him to forget it.
Yeah, she told her landlady she didn't dare go with me. But the landlady said, "Oh, he's not so bad. Why don't you just try it?" And so, wow, did she have an experience. I didn't hold her hand. I didn't touch her. Hardly talk to her. By the time we got out of the movie, she wondered if I was alive. But we drove home, and as we drove home, I noticed she got sitting closer to me, a little closer to me, and by the time we sat in front of the landlady's house, she was snuggling up to me, kind of, you know.
Oh, sure.
And I thought, this gal has blood. She's alive. And boy,
We'll have to get your side of the story in a minute.
and so then we,
I haven't thought mine up.
so from
He's
then on we were a
thought
little
his
more friendly.
I see.
Not truly, but anyway, then the next year, Oh yeah, then Marva Sorensen lived right down here in Cottonwood. I didn't drive in my ward. Became her roommate, and so on weekends, Marva would want to come home, and so who would she bring home?
Lenore.
Lenore. And who would sit in the middle? Marva was tall. She couldn't sit in the middle on that hump, but Lenore liked to sit in the middle. So we got closer, you might say. And that developed, I guess, finally in 48 we got married.
That was 1948, huh? Yeah.
1948.
I was 6. Judy wasn't born yet.
September the 8th.
No.
You were born?
Ten.
Judy was a year away.
Born just a few days. I was born
Yeah.
August 16.
Oh, well, that's good.
1948.
You were born when?
49.
Oh, 49.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it worked into what was a wonderful friendship, you see, worked into a good marriage.
Terrific. How many years? Oh, let's see, 46,
54.
almost 40 years.
54 years now. 56 years?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
56 years.
Yeah.
48 to
To
2000.
2004.
It's 56.
Yeah. Wow.
Darwin, tell us some memories of Ed and Helen Graham. Do you have any? When did you first meet Edward Graham? Our father.
Oh boy.
It's hard to remember, I guess.
I don't know when they started courting. I knew he skied a lot, and so we didn't have much. There was not much family association between Rudolph and Ed. Of course, in this community, people that age were, boys that age. Well, everybody knew each other, but they were never close. I don't know where Ed married. I met Helen. Maybe in school. No. Ed
Well,
went-
they both went to Granite.
They both went to Granite.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
That's
happened.
probably what it was.
And of course, Dave Newman, that lived right down there on Holly, he was pretty set on Helen too. And I told you, did I tell you about that?
About how Dave came and brought her skis on
one
Christmas morning.
one Christmas, Dave Newman showed up with I think skis for Helen, and he'd no sooner left than Ed drove in. I forgot what he brought her.
Boys and skis.
But he must have had a little sweeter story, because he won her.
Oh dear.
I know he rode his horse up here a time or two.
Ed?
Yeah.
I don't recall that. John Mulholland used to ride his horse up here.
John Mulholland?
John Mulholland, yeah.
Wow.
He's the one that had an accident. The car hit him on Holland Boulevard, and so he always had a bad leg,
Yes.
and finally had to have it. Oh dear, terrible situation.
He fell off his horse too, I think.
Yeah, well, they knocked him off his horse. He broke his leg.
Yeah.
He had a wooden leg.
He had a wooden leg.
Are they still around? I know
No.
they had a home there on Tollgate Lane.
Helen, she had to move because her taxes were so high.
Her taxes
After
went
he
up so
died.
high that she.
He became very active in the church. John did.
Yeah.
John wasn't interested in religion for all my life, But somehow something got to him, and he was very active. He was in the bishopric
Oh,
for a
that's
short
neat.
time. Yes, well, we graduated from Stanford in 51, came to Salt Lake, and of course, her father, the Whitworths, they had they were sure I was going to go back and get my PhD, because I had some aspirations for a PhD. But after I taught at Stanford, I was just like an usher. Come right in, and I'd give them their 4-week course, and I'd say goodbye, and they'd go out and get $1,000 a month salary, and I was just an usher. So I said, that teaching is not for me. I've got to be on the front lines, or not at all. So I came home and walked down the street and met a friend of mine that I'd met on my mission, or in the mission home, and he introduced me to
Roy Hill,
who owned Salt Lake Realty. We went to his office and sat down and talked. Roy was a great old guy, gray-haired grandfather type. And first thing you know, I was selling real estate, to the shock of Brother Whitwer and Lenore's mother. And so I struggled until about 55 I became a broker. And then I had quite a few salesmen, and I took over Salt Lake Realty that Roy Hill owned. There was 4 or 5 of us, and we couldn't make a decision without even going to the toilet, so I said, either I'm going to buy you out or you can buy me out. And so I bought them all out, and then I ran Salt Lake Realty for about 30 years. And sometimes I had 20 salesmen, but I never had good. I was the worst broker in Salt Lake City. I was not temperamental adapted to discipline, so they'd get away with murder. I bought them 4 different. I leased 4 Plymouths and put Salt Lake Realty, big signs, all this falderall. It didn't do us any good. So I was a good salesman. So I was running a sales office with several salespeople, but I was acting like I was alone. And it was a good thing I did, because one Monday morning I come down, there was a sign on the window that said, Darwin, Joe got his broker's license last week, and so Jim and Mel and I are going to go with him. And this happened all over town. A broker would come down on Monday morning and lose about 4 salespeople. They left a note on the door. The salesmen were just awful. And as soon as they made a big deal, if they did make a big deal, then they wanted their commission doubled, or, So I finally just got fed up with it after 30 years. In the meantime, I struggled and got a couple of apartment houses. I got an old 6-plex down on 5th South and remodeled it, blood, sweat, and tears. And then later on, I for the company, before I bought them out, I bought the corner of 6th East and 4th South with 3 old historical buildings. And so then when I bought them out, we were still paying on those. And meantime, we bought a building. Roy Hill had the building on 3rd South, 235 East 3rd South. So we used that for years and years and years. Finally, I paid off the man that owned the corner of 6th East, bought the others out, finally. And then I was going to restore them preserve the pioneer heritage and all that, So we remodeled them, only to end up with...
Model, that is.
Remodel, a better word. But anyway, then we ended up renting to people that were just fly-by-nights. They were there, very hit and miss. But then I was approached by Mother Teresa to build a franchise, for fast food. And I was so independent, I was just smug, turned them down, But gradually I got tired of these people that were leaving and wouldn't pay their rent. And then a gal showed up that represented Burger King. And I was still very smug. Oh, I wouldn't be interested. I get you an offer. Well, I don't think so. But finally she came with an offer that I could not turn down.
Burger King, where is that?
On the 6th East and 4th South.
Oh, yeah.
The whole corner. I had 3 buildings. I had a building about 150 feet east and west, and about 175 feet deep. And I said, well, what about the buildings? Have to be torn down. Well, that would be I'm not interested. So she got the new buyer to agree to pay $150,000 to demolish those things, and gave me a lease for 20 years plus a 20-year option that I could not turn down.
I didn't know that. So you...
And that was 1980. That was
Father could read,
Pardon?
and I could quit piano lessons.
That was
6th
about
East and 4th South.
that was about,
that's a
It's
commercial.
a good,
86 anyway.
it's right on the track.
But the man that bought it was
Up
a
to you.
Pete Lysenko. He was a Russian, and he had a restaurant down in the Provo, and he'd been an airline executive, that is travel executive. So he put all of his money into buying out the man that I'd originally sold it to, and he took over the lease. But he turned out he was not a businessman, and so finally in '93 he had to go bankrupt. And then I ran into Dave Williams that had about 4 or 5 Burger King at that time, and now they got about 31. So that turned out really good. And so if we didn't have that Burger King, I tell you, it's made retirement very pleasant.
Do you still have it?
A net
You still have the
lease,
land?
A net lease. The first 20 years doesn't expire till 2013, and then she has 20 more years option.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
So I'll tell you, the real estate people have an old saying, one investment's worth a lifetime of effort.
Yeah.
Well, I put my blood, sweat, and tears on those 3 old buildings there for several years, and it was a lot of anxiety, but it proved the point. And so life's been, financially, we've been quite blessed because of that. Plus, I picked up an 8-plex in 75, or 2 4-plexes down on 27th South. Meantime, I sold, in 75, I bought 10 acres from Bob Woolley. His father had bought him 20 acres up on the hill.
I don't know where that
Yeah, I
is.
know
Up
where
on
that
the
is.
reservoir.
Okay.
Up Mulholland's.
Up
Okay.
above Mulholland's,
Further up,
above the canal.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
20 acres, and finally, of course, Bob, folks got divorced. Bob inherited the land, and but he only had about 11 acres left. Maybe he only had 11 acres in the beginning. I think so. Anyway, I was riding my horse one day up there and ran into him and asked him what he was doing, and I said, what about the hill? What are you going to do about the hill? Oh, I don't know, maybe sell it. So right then and there, I made him an offer and bought it.
Really?
One of the best deals I ever made in my life. 11 acres, and ended up, so then we entered into a joint partnership with a couple of guys that were smart guys, but kind of, anyway, they did a good job of setting up a subdivision, and we sold all the lots, and but then they were about to go bankrupt, and they had 2 lots left right just below the Wasatch, just gravel, just gravel hills. And so they owed me $59,000, and so they came to me and said, we're going to have all of our assets zapped any minute. Would you like to? And they owed me maybe $100,000. I don't know. I've forgotten. Why don't you, if you'd like to take over these last 2 lots, we'll be happy to do so. Boy, I did it, and that's been so interesting because the neighbor who used to be the executive over at the title company, kind of a sharp businessman. He'd bought one just north of me, and was planning to have a commercial up on up on the Wasatch Boulevard. So he's come to me several times over the years and said, Darwin, those gravel hills aren't worth much, but I'd take them off your hands. About 20,000, and I'd just smile, And so anyway, it went on and on and on. Then, lo and behold, the golf course, the Old Mill Golf Course, comes into play. And then I just drag my feet, nothing's happened. But as the golf course develops, it occurs to me that those lots are going to be more than just a gravel hill. And so now they're worth about $300,000.
Oh my goodness.
250,000 we got for one, 275,000 considering the commission, and we still have one left. But the trouble is, the other one didn't have any building on it. But now they're building a big, huge house, so now we can sell the other one. What I'm saying is, we've been blessed, in spite of the fact that I was a broker failure in a way. In spite of the fact I've had blood, sweat, and tears, it's amazing what just a couple of things, a couple of investments, if you wait long enough in this inflationary world, will turn out as a benefit. So now we can help all of our grandchildren go to college. We bought some of these 259, is it? 529. 529, tax-free tuition benefits,
Right.
And so our grandkids and our kids are relieved a lot, some of the anxiety of the cost of college, because tuition now is exorbitant.
Oh, it's awful, isn't it?
It's just awful.
Didn't you own that little house up by the Cotton Bottom?
Yes, I
Darwin?
did. That was grandfather's, Grandfather built that for Uncle Fred.
Is that
And
right?
that name was Honeymoon.
Oh, Rudolph did?
That
Oh,
little
yeah,
house
Rudolph.
next door to the cotton bar.
Yeah.
Rudolph built that, and Uncle Fred and
Lucy
Aunt Babe
lived in it.
had their honeymoon there. But I
Okay.
guess they didn't own it very long. Then they sold it to Saxtons. Saxtons.
Yeah.
And meantime,
Well, did Bill and Lucy just rent it from?
Bill and Lucy rented
I
it.
remember that. Mm-hmm.
And then Virginia Saxton came to me one day and said, Darwin, I have an acre back of a little house here, and I thought that you might be one might be interested in getting and buying it, or maybe half of it. So I bought half of it, and then I realized that I had now come in possession of Rudolph's old place, but that worked out good. Then I finally sold the little house to Tony that runs the cotton bottom. And then later on they wanted to expand, so I sold them the other half acre that Saxon sold to me at quite a profit.
I imagine.
And then I was hating myself. Oh, in the meanwhile, when I made the deal to buy half of it, I took an option from Virginia to buy the other half. But in the meantime, I was having trouble downtown with finances and credit rating and everything, struggling as a young broker. So when the time came for me to exercise the option, I said, "Oh, to heck with it. Maybe it'll fall to me anyway." So back in 1990, was it? Not 20 years ago, it was still for sale.
Really?
And it had been sold 2 or 3 times, and instead of being worth $5,000, $5,500 that I paid Virginia, it was now up to $55,000. By the time I got interested, they wanted $100,000, but I made them an offer for $87,000, and I got it. And so it's just amazing what will happen
Wow.
when you wait long enough.
The price of land around here is just.
And so then I
Oh my goodness.
So then,
Just doubled this year.
that was 63 hundredths of an acre, 63 hundredths of an acre,
Terrible.
and I
How long was
sat on it, and I cut down all the oak brush and everything, and then about 4 years ago, our millionaire Dave Spafford moved in down here, built a $5 million house, and then we were talking about how we were going to get a park up on Holiday Boulevard, open space, open space and all, and so he showed some interest. So I finally sold it to him for $400,000.
Oh, jeez.
Whew.
Are you serious? How much of an acre? Half an acre?
63 hundredths of an acre.
Yeah.
Meantime, though, the tragedy of my life was that I bought the 5 acres, 4.3 acres behind the Tuscany, that from Jack Anderson, my old classmate. That's back in the likes to Washington merry-go-round, He wanted to sell it, and so I finally ended up buying it. But then I was taken in by a Vietnam doctor who came to me and wanted to buy a small lot, and I said, "Well, you wouldn't be interested in this. This is 4 acres." "Well, that'd be fine." So he conned me into believing that he was going to build a big estate there, and I gave him an option for 3 or 4 years, and he'd pay me so much a year. But then the option came to maturity about 3 or 4 years later, and the moment he got the deed to the property, he put an application in for 46 condominiums.
Oh, jeez.
Well, the whole community rose up in arms and fought it and defeated it. But in the meantime, he owned it, see, and I'd sold it to him for a song, only 500,000, and he'd bought it and sold it for $2 million.
Sure.
And now it is the heart of the whole controversy of Holiday City. I'm going to a meeting tomorrow morning. We got a lawsuit going to close up Holiday Boulevard, which was Knudsen's lane hundreds of years ago, It's now become a public little road. And Beckstrand, a developer, is building a 6-story building just across the freeway in the county, because we're now Holiday. And he wants to put 1,400 cars down every evening when that building's finished. So we're in a big lawsuit.
Down Holiday Boulevard?
Yeah, Holiday Boulevard, the south part of Holiday Boulevard, south of 6200,
Oh, yeah.
coming from the freeway. And we're just up in arms, we're up in arms, and we got lawsuits going like crazy. And next Wednesday, the judge is going to make a decree of either turn us down or favor Beckstrand. So tomorrow morning we're hoping to solve the whole problem. But it's interesting. It's so interesting that yesterday I got a call from Dietrich, who's on the council. He says, "Darwin, we think we got it worked out. We think we got it worked out. We think we can develop Knudsen Park." Knudsen Park.
Wow.
Well, sure, that's what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I said,
For
well,
sure.
I can't fight that because Knudsen's Corner, you know, has been here for 100 years. So we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Oh, that would be exciting.
What is the date? Let's tell the date on this tape
The
today.
date is exactly
29th of August.
28th today. 28th of
29th.
29th.
29 August 2004.
Yeah, the 30th. On the 30th, we're going to settle it. We hope. And if that would be, because you see, what's happening, the building that's going up is going right on Knudsen's Grove. The very 4 acres exactly, the Knudsen's Grove is now going to be 6-story office buildings. See?
Oh,
So my resentment about that, but then if it finally ends up that we've got a little open space, I don't object to Knudsen Park, do you?
no.
They shouldn't allow a 6-story office building out in this is a residential
It's
area.
just horrendous. It's just
Yeah,
horrendous.
it's absolutely ridiculous. But
But this whole southeast area, look at the buildings
yeah,
up there.
I've seen those.
On the hill that we own, you know, that we hold all the
It's a crime.
100 loads of dirt down to the pasture. Now there's 3, 4, well,
It's a crime.
outrageous. But all's well that ends well.
Yeah,
So
we
can
hope
just-
it'll
we
turn
can
out to be
just hope-
Knudsen's Park.
That it will end up that we have some open space along Cottonwood Creek up there. And Knudsen's Corner won't be entirely lost.
Tell that Tony he needs to paint his cotton bottom sign
Yes,
or tear it down.
I think there's a lineup of people that have done that already. I think he likes the vintage of it.
Yeah, I think so.
This new house is built on the same east-west lines exactly as the old house. So when you look down this wall, you're looking right down the wall of the old house, except that one started clear back here. Remember the porch? Remember the
The
porch?
front porch, you
Remember the
bet.
porch? Remember the porch with the
With the columns?
the column we used to swing on, you know? That came right out here.
Huh.
I pay about $100 every 3 months to water that place.
Well, Dave Hill, you know, Dave Hill that married Dana Hill, Jerry's daughter, they had their honeymoon here.
Oh. When was that?
Oh, that was 2 years ago. No, 1931.
19...
Uncle Frank did. Uncle Frank.
Oh, he built it himself.
He was a bachelor. He wanted to be like close to mother because they were the 2 youngest in the family.
Oh.
It's become an icon now. I can't tear it down because people that have the parties here, they love it so much that we're just stuck with it.
It sure looks better now than it used to.
Well, I dolled it up a little bit. See?
Yeah.
I put a little design on the outside there, and so it's better. He's proud of his tractor. Can you imagine Dick turning into a
Tractor connoisseur, tractor plower.
connoisseur? Yeah, absolutely.
He loves it.
He loves it. I know.
Well, we're walking out on the back 40 here now.
Cornfield. This is the cornfield. Now I do a little burning here every spring. They allow me to do burning with this much acreage. So we have to gather up. Now, but that pile there is the result of the kind of a cyclone wind that hit us this last year.
This is one of Darwin's peaches he just handed me. He's got how many trees?
15 young trees, only 3 years old. 3 years old, and now they're just, and the wonderful weather this year. There's no frost, and we had the most voracious, the most bountiful fruit crop this year. Apricots, everything. And look at these peach trees. They're just loaded.
Yeah, look at that. I'll be darned.
And these are called Alberta. I couldn't be more pleased with the way this young orchard has turned out so quickly. I keep telling Lenore we're going to have some peaches, and she says, "Oh, I don't know. Seeing is believing."
How much was this home, Darwin?
5 million.
$5 million bucks.
Yeah.
In Hawaii, that'd be 50 million. And there's the new barn you built. It looks like a barn.
And now he wants to buy this.
Plums
Let's
are
get the-
delicious. We've been stealing your plums.
Good. Very good.
The wall that Darwin built. That's the tack house that you built for saddles. Do you,
Yeah,
do you still have horses?
No, I sold them about 2 years ago.
Oh.
This is that fence there. We filled it in. I filled this all in and built this in 1960, about 1970.
The old mill race.
Then the flood came. The flood came in 84, 83, and a big telephone spool came right down here and ruined my water wheel. Was already worn out. I've been there from 66 to about 70, 84. So I built another one, just like it. And now I'm talking about having another one built because this one is starting to wear and tear. But I like the design of it because it's.
Does it turn?
Well, yes.
You got to have enough water.
Yeah, that's not a picture of it.
Okay, we're
We
rolling.
better get off to the side somewhere.
We're rolling.
Just a minute. Okay, wait a minute now, wait a minute.
Boy, it picks up speed, doesn't it? Look at that. I'll be darned. I need a little more water coming through.
Well, it's out of balance, that's the problem.
Oh. Yeah, it hits that high point and stops. Let's get some water coming there. Well,
Good man, Tan.
there he goes.
Not yet. Hey, not yet. It's coming. It's coming. You'll have to come over here, Ray, to get ready to see it.
Oh, I can see it.
Oh, yeah, here's coming.
There you go.
Now we go.
You need to have a turn.
The family will not die of thirst now. Look at that. Wow. You're getting a lot of water out of there.
I bought a chainsaw. Came out here and there was at least 20 or 25 dead cottonwood trees and live ones. And I just cut them down.
I remember when you did that.
And now gradually they've all died out and now they're all gone. There's one dead one over here now. But
These are the bark.
Before they were all gone, I stripped the bark off of some of the last remaining ones. This is an old tire off of one of our Surreys, way back in the 1920s or so. This came out of the mill race. It had been buried there for years.
What's that little gadget?
Well, this is an old pitchfork, and this is an old piece, something unknown. But this bark is going to last a long time, I hope.
Man, they're almost like redwoods, Darwin.
Oh, well, these
They're
two,
so big.
I lost the two best trees on the farm. Cost me $100,000 at least. It was the value.
Yeah.
What it would
What a
do.
great shot this is. Darwin and LeNore together. It's almost, there's a halo. There's a light coming off LeNore. Look at that. I think it's her sweater. It's just,
This is really my daughter.
It's because I've got such white hair.
She changed her
and he
hairdo.
refuses to go gray.
it darkens down a little as you go over toward Darwin. I don't know what's
She
got
changed her hair the other day.
There we go.
Took away the grandmother hairdo, and now she's my daughter.
I see.
Yeah, with white hair, hardly.
Well, I was telling Ray on the way over here, I don't think Darwin's hair has even turned gray yet,
No.
has it?
No.
It
It
hasn't.
just refuses.
Yeah.
I got tired of waiting for him. So I decided I was going to go natural.
Well, it looks beautiful.
Well,
Well, we took a little tour with Darwin. We heard some of his story and his business and his life here on the farm. Anything in conclusion, Uncle Darwin and LeNore?
Well, we just hope that we can continue and enjoy this, we call it paradise. In fact, I've long concluded that my next move is a grave move.
Great move. You don't want to move from
Okay.
here.
he's only going to leave here feet first.
I see.
You know how his father did? His father died chopping wood,
One shop.
And Bill called over at the other house in East Mill Creek. And Darwin said, I just knew he was gone all the way out.
I was downtown at my office. I drove out. But Dad was fortunate to be able to go so quickly with no pain,
I know.
just like he
Wasn't
wanted
that
to.
wonderful?
Yeah,
just
it was.
Don't have to be an invalid and all that mess.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Well,
What
you've certainly been nice of you, Raymond, to come and with all this expenditure of equipment, just like being on CBS, my word.
And now a word from our sponsor. No, this is a pleasure, really. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and you know, I left Honolulu and forgot my battery charger,
Oh my word.
so I had to go down 2 nights ago and buy one.
Oh
Because
my.
there's no way I was getting out of here without getting
What a
this.
sacrifice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that it actually came to fruition after several promises that I thought was going to end in disaster.
You bet. Well, this is good. I only wish we could get you singing and
I,
just do a couple of bars.
No,
Darwin?
I can't do a thing.
Ah, sweet mystery of life, I've found you.
No. Something's wrong with my voice today. I don't know what it is.
Have you found the sweet mystery of life? That's the question.
I think we have, yes.
Okay.
I think so. The way things have worked out, bringing this farm together after all the problems and worry and anticipation is just a miracle. I hope Dad is happy. to
Looking
see-
back at all the work you've done here, would you do it again?
I don't know how I ever did that wall. 800 tons of rock.
Whew.
And I still have a back. I should have no
His
back at all.
determination.
And I didn't crush my thumb once, lifting 800 tons of rock with no gloves.
I would
Probably-
crush my thumb. I am clumsy.
All right, well, we're
Well, just
Grateful.
having you sit here starting to talk about Grandma.
It's to you, Judy. I know she was a real jewel for you. She just saved you.
she was almost Judy's mother for a
She
lot of
was.
She
years.
was.
Yeah.
She was for a long time there.
And so you just tell me whatever you can remember.
But you know, I always have one regret. I never had them over for dinner because I didn't know how to make coffee. Now, isn't that a dumb excuse? Oh, every time I think about that, I just get so mad at myself because I didn't know how to make coffee. I could have asked her to make the coffee, you know, because when we had the funerals and they would come to our house, Lucy always made the coffee.
Uh-huh.
But
And
Dad-
it was no big problem.
Dad had to have his coffee.
Yeah.
Huh.
I can still see him walking down from the bridge
Oh,
with
yeah.
that hat on, just so walking along.
He had a stride. He had an
Yeah.
interesting stride.
Yeah.
What I remember about is him sitting by the window in the kitchen with the,
Tomato plant sprouts sitting there.
not tomatoes,
No, they were
geraniums.
geraniums.
Oh.
They were
And
geraniums.
They smelled terrible. And I could
But they
never
were
stand
so
them.
pretty.
But they were pretty.
They were pretty, so it was okay.
Mother loved them.
He'd go to sleep in that little rocker there, wouldn't he, by the
Oh,
window?
Yes. Every day at noon, he'd eat lunch, sleep for half an hour, back to Castles, then back here for 4 hours, up in the morning for 4 hours, back to Castles for 8 hours. What a slavish. Oh, poor man. He worked himself to death.
It's too bad he didn't know about Sunday. He could have taken a day off.
But Sunday was our day to sell strawberries.
Yeah,
We
see?
1,200 cases a year. Oh,
Didn't
my
uh,
back, my back aches
They'd
to
have
think
them
about
down
it.
in the cellar, remember? All the strawberries were down in the cellar and they'd bring them up.
and Harvey sold coal out of here.
Oh,
Knudsen
yeah.
Coal
Oh.
Company.
Harvey and Rudolph, yeah, both.
The first time I came up here and met Darwin's family, they knew I was coming for dinner. And I'll never forget, I walked into the little bathroom off the kitchen, you know, on the north side there,
Yeah.
and that wash bowl was filthy dirty.
Well-
I'm sure Harvey had gone in just before me and washed
with
coal
coal
dust
Oh.
off.
Yeah.
But that's when I decided that maybe I could handle him because my mother was a wonderful housekeeper and she just drove me crazy.
Oh, you didn't like it.
No,
So-
I don't
No.
like to clean house. I'll
Yeah.
cook all
She's
day,
come a
but
long way.
don't make me clean house.
Well, good. Then you were okay. You came into a good
Yeah,
family.
it was
Yeah, come a
okay.
long
It
way.
was okay. But it was really funny. But she tried to have everything so nice and so right. And that washbowl. If she'd only known, I'm sure she would have just died.
Probably.
But,
They used to use Lifebuoy soap. I remember this orange Lifebuoy soap.
oh
Is
yes,
what I
it
remember.
smelled to hide.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, Ray, we've set apart. I've set apart an acre and a third from the house, from this house over to the creek, and all the way out, including the rock wall, and all the way down, including the barn, for 100-year trust. 100 years for recreation for our children and grandchildren, and you and their friends.
You told me
Oh,
that
that's
in that
great.
letter when you sent me that $5,000 that I just about fainted on the floor when I got in the mail.
Yeah.
That was long.
When you see the millstone out here, that is a historical monument.
Yes.
For the daughters of the Utah Pioneers, and it'll remain there for generations, and hopefully the wall will be there too for many generations. And then after 100 years, the trust fund dies for 16 years, and then they can renew it. But by that time, they might want to sell it or something.
I probably won't be around by then.
Well, I think you are
don't
just
think
so
any of us will.
amazing the way you have just turned this place into this beautiful place.
It really has been really nice.
But it's Dad's pine trees that really make it. I just love them. Too bad the cyclone took down two of them, 106 feet tall. Two of the most beautiful ones were knocked over in a 100-mile-an-hour windstorm about 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
That's where this bear came from.
This is where this bear came from.
Really?
This bear cost me $100,000, Jay.
But the day that tree
A
blew
day
over,
after the tree blew over,
Donna Dahl called, and she was over the state fair, you know. And she says, Donna,
Darwin,
Darwin, what are you going to do with those trees?
we need that tree.
We need it was just like a great big elephant out there on the driveway.
I
Or a
bet.
whale. No, it was a whale. Because Wayne had just called me and he says, are you okay over there? Because the wind had been really strong from the east.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
I said, oh yes, we're fine. Then I walked down the hall past the study window and looked out and here was this whale
Oh.
laying in the front yard.
And then you called him back and said,
Help! We
I
can't
will-
even get out of here.
I woke up at 12:30 and heard this terrible wind. I never heard such a wind in my life. Just a roar. And then we heard this thud.
You're lucky it didn't hit the house, huh?
yeah.
Yeah, we were very lucky.
But 28 inches in diameter. So they came and cut it into 4-foot lengths. And then they had a chainsaw genius sculptor down at the fair. And he made
They pay him about $1,000 a day to
He
come
made
and
he
make
made
these
about 35 bears from 4 feet tall down to this size.
No kidding. Oh, so that's where.
And she
They-
said to us, I want you to come down and decide what you'd like him to make for you. And well, we never got down to the fair. So when she called, I says, oh, Donna, you just pick out what you think we'd like, and we'll be happy with it. Thinking it would be some little
Perfect.
knick-knack thing to
It's
go up
perfect.
on the shelf, you know?
Perfect
And
size.
she came to the door with this huge bear.
Oh, it's a small bear.
So they did
That's
that for you,
cute.
and you gave them the wood for.
And we gave him the wood.
Oh, I see.
Neat.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
the tree cost me $100,000 in value because it was the most beautiful tree on the place. And we lost two of them just like that.
On tape. What's the story on this tree behind you?
Well, this big cottonwood, this big block.
No, this one behind you first.
This tree, when I was about 10 years old, I took a lot of interest in gardening and with my mother. I was the only one in the family that did. And I found these little locust suckers around, you know. And I dug up 2 or 3 of them, and I planted this one when it was just this big. And the one behind the house, by the chicken coop, I planted that one at the same time. And one behind the chicken coop. So I've lived to see them grow.
It's his fault. You have to.
When that, the box elder, you see, and those were here from the very earliest days of the Knudsens. See, there's one there and there was 2 or 3 more in a row, okay? When I was little, when I was about 5 years old, I had a little red wagon. And this one here, it seemed like it was that big when I was that little. It had a big burl at the bottom, and it was hollowed out on one side, and I could drive my little red wagon right inside of it, you know, and back it around, you know, and I'd kind of hide in there sometimes, you know. So I wrote a little poem in that book, Once Within a Tree. You need to look that up.
I'll read
We'll
that.
have to go back and read it. I love that book of yours.
And this is Grandma's. What kind of bush is it?
Snowball.
Snowball bush.
It's
But let me show you something. Let me show you the tragedy. The tragedy.
That tree that blew down, huh?
I guess you can't see it.
Yeah, you don't want to trip, Darwin, out there.
It must weigh 2 or 3 tons. It's
Yeah, I'll
just
bet.
huge.
I'll bet.